second and final top 16 reveal just dropped, and I'm joined by Lisa Peterson, the chair of the D1 Selection Committee. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining me again. We saw each other just a couple of weeks ago, but here we are talking about these one seeds to start it off. South Carolina, Ohio State, Stanford, and new from February 15th, UCLA. Describe what went into UCLA breaking into that one line.
Well, first of all, as always, it's so good to see you. And I can't believe it was just 2 weeks ago. Based on what's transpired in women's college basketball, it feels like a lot longer than that. But yes, so our new number one in in UCLA, we had significant discussion. As we always talk about, you want to make sure that you're getting your right lines, your one line, your two line, your three line. And so that turn is always very critical. And when it came to UCLA, the conversations that we had regarding the other teams that we were debating for that spot, it really came down to Lauren Betts is back, how that team is playing since she's been back. I realized that the game on Monday probably wasn't the best description of how Pac-12 women's basketball is this season. But if you watch the game on Thursday against Utah, you saw just a well-oiled machine that it looks like UCLA is playing right now. But also, they have 7 top 25 wins. They have no losses out of the net 25. And they have a very tough overall schedule in 2. So they really challenge themselves, and they've done a really good job against those elite teams. So again, it was a big debate. But given, what transpired with the rest of the teams that we were discussing, they came out as our last number one.
Yeah, they're healthy and they're making a push. I mean, that inside-outside game that they have is lethal. So excited to see how they close out the season. But another team that could have broke in, Virginia Tech. We have to talk about how hot they're playing as of late. They made a major push from last top 16 reveal, February 15th. They were a 3 seed sitting at number 10. Now today you have a 2 seed now eyeing that one line at the 5 spot. So what have you seen as of late, the committee, of how the Hokies are playing their best basketball right now? What have you seen from them?
Well, one of the things that we talk about is just how fluid they are as an offense. The ball doesn't stop. There's constant motion. And now that King is playing well again, Kitley is doing Kitley things. And then Georgia, she's just the person that you want with the ball, navigating that offense. They've had an incredible last few weeks. I believe they're 10-0 in their last, or significant. They don't have very many losses in their last 10, but they are playing incredible ball right now. And to win that league, which is very deep and very tough in the ACC, it was definitely something that we talked about. But no, they are a very fun team to watch, and Kenny Brooks has them ready to go right at the right time of the year again.
Yeah, also out right now, Louisville and K-State. But I want to talk about the new teams that are in Oklahoma and Gonzaga. We talked about these 2 teams last time around. You had them on your radar. What's impressed you the most, and what allowed them to break in when we look at the Sooners and the Zags?
Certainly. So with the Zags, you can't argue what they have done. They tried to go out and schedule a very tough non-conference schedule. And they beat Stanford. You can't discredit what they did. I realize it was back in December, but they still did it. They're also on a 23-game win streak. And I don't know if you watched the game last night, but it was pretty impressive what they did to Portland and their backcourt. I mean, they're, the Trong sisters, and they're just such a veteran club. It's almost like they don't have any weaknesses when it comes to when all 5 of them are playing together. And, how they play defense. I was watching so many times, just don't let anybody bring that ball down under the post, under the box, because they're going to grab it. They're feisty. They remind me a lot of Colorado when it comes to defense. So just, the ability that they have both offensively and defensively. And again, they can't control how strong their conference is, but they've been playing really great basketball. So, and it was a combination of, what they've done, but also what happened to some other teams. As far as Oklahoma, we did have them on the radar. They had a really tough November, December, but I would not say that it's the same team that's playing right now. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They beat a very, very good Texas team last night to clinch the Big 12 conference championship or regular season championship. And they just seem to be playing very inspired ball. They never let down. Doesn't matter where they are in the game. If they're down by double digits or not, they keep fighting. And that's what happened last night. And they were able to get that win.
Two teams everyone needs to keep on their radar moving forward. So excited to see how the season plays out for them. From 1 through 16, take us in the room just to give us more of an inside look of those conversations. Were there any other interesting conversations that the committee had when deciding this list that we haven't talked about yet?
There's always interesting conversations, Autumn. And what I will say is this is my 4th year on the committee, and I don't remember a more debated top 16 than what we had this time. And I think it has a lot to do with, if you looked at the 16 that we had, on February 15th, 5 of them went undefeated. Everybody else had a loss or two. And so that was significant, just in looking like your body of work, but then also how you're doing now. And so I don't remember a time where it's been, that much, the number of teams that have had losses in the 2-week span. But in addition, I just think it speaks to the parity that's in women's college basketball. We talk about it a lot, but we see it playing out, in the season. And I think that the debate is because there's so much parity. I know we talk about it. I know it might sound like a cliche, but just any given night, it's any team, and you can't let down. I mean, we saw what happened, to Indiana the game before they played Iowa, and just like look at the difference in what Indiana looked like in those 2 games 4 days apart. So I think it's a credit to what these coaches have done. It's the credit to the investment that institutions are putting into women's basketball. And I also think it has a lot to do with, we're seeing this generation who's been playing basketball and really learning fundamental basketball at such a young age, and all of that playing out. And also, you don't have to go to the traditional powerhouses to have a great experience and have the opportunity to get to the national championship game. So I think there's a lot of factors that play into it. We debated, I feel like, most of the things. I think South Carolina might have been the only thing we didn't debate. Everything else, it seemed just a conversation that was being had, which I think is great. And this could change. I think the thing that gets hard when you're doing these reveals is you don't have the full body of work yet. And so you're trying to make assumptions as to what's going to happen next and how it's all going to play out. And I think that sometimes the conversations tend to be around that. So what we try to really do is focus on what we know now and base it based off of that. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. You have to factor in conference tournaments around around the corner. That's going to be wild to see how everything plays out. To your point, the parity, everyone kind of beating up on everyone. You don't know whose game it's going to be that night, but exciting to see. And a big matchup that we have on the horizon: Ohio State, who's a 1 seed that you have listed, and a 2 seed for Iowa. How close are you guys going to be looking at this game, and what impact could that be? Because Iowa has fluctuated back and forth from a 1 line to the 2 line. What are the implications?
Well, first of all, as a basketball fan, I'm excited to watch it. I think it's going to be incredible basketball. And again, two teams that have different strengths, as to what they have. And certainly, you can't discredit like what Caitlin Clark has done and continues to do for the game of basketball, brings more eyeballs to it. So I think as a fan, everybody is going to be watching, but certainly, the implications, it's going to depend on how that shakes out. And because that's just it. Given what we know, it could be anything. It could be, a blowout one way or the other. It could be a last second shot, an overtime game. They went to overtime last time they played. So there's just so many things that could happen. But then what's exciting is we get to turn around and have that Big Ten tournament that's not too far away. And so just the number of incredible matchups that we're going to get to see. But the implications, yes. I mean, that's the way we feel about every game right now, in trying just to complete that picture of what the teams are going to bring by the time we get into that selection room.
It's going to be fun to watch. Thank you so much for the update, Lisa. I'll see you in Indy very soon to get a live update of the 2024 March Madness bracket coming up real soon ahead of Selection Sunday. Always appreciate your time.
Thank you, Autumn.